What's your first thought when you see a cop? Don't avoid eye contact. That's not natural at all. Cops stand out of the crowd and humans naturally scan their environment for cues. It is entirely natural that you'd look at them. In fact, naturally, you'd be more likely to look at them. So not looking at them at all implies conscious effort. Of course, not always the case, people can just be distracted and not be scanning their environments, but it is definitely more natural to look at them because they stand out from the crowd. There was an interesting video I watched. The goal was to convince someone to admit to a crime they hadn't committed. They started with mild things, messing with the target, changing ties when they weren't looking, then they upped the ante to changing entire people and so on. Everyone around him were actors, all acting like nothing had just happened. They moved him in his sleep a few times. Anyway, they got him to confess to a fake murder. My thought process exactly. Then one day I got pulled over because I didn't have my headlights on at night, and before the cop came to my window I was hella scared cause I didn't know what I did wrong. Rip. He gave me a warning because he could tell I was a college student and that I had just forgotten to set my headlight to auto since it was a new car. Apparently that's a fairly common thing. They're not out for you, they're not out for you. I have a bit of an anxiety issue whenever I see a cop. I had a run-in with one a few years ago. I was driving a perfectly legal Class 2 moped on a bicycle path, legal too unless signage states otherwise, with no pedestrians nearby. The cop stopped me demanding to see a driver's license that isn't even required for what I was driving. Insurance was all that's required. Despite me calmly explaining that, he insisted I was wrong, even when I quoted the law to him in my second language. It ended with him commanding me to lock the moped at a parking lot across town from where I lived, despite me doing absolutely nothing wrong. I once had to file a police report because my ex was rear-ended by someone who then drove off. We ended up getting held there for hours because the cop saw two emo kids and convinced herself we must have weed in the car. Spoiler alert, we didn't even do drugs. This was when straight edge was cool, mid-2000s vibe. After she called dogs and searched our car and found nothing, she gave us a hard time for insisting she actually complete the police report we originally called for, and then did such a piss-poor job with the write-up that it almost didn't get accepted by the insurance company. Meanwhile, someone literally committed a hit and run with a full description of their car and license plate number, but that's not sexy enough to give an F about to Lieutenant Karen, 5-year veteran of the GPD. I think one of the reasons for darker colors is for uniform longevity. Light colors show dirt and stains more easily. My husband's uniform is navy blue and black, and he's had blood/puke/pee spilled all over his clothes during his shifts, and because the uniform is dark, those wash out and the department doesn't have to replace it. He did get a shirt replaced after someone threw a brick at him and the brick tore his arm sleeve, and his skin, but that's par for the course these days. It depends where and what time of day. I'll say it, having lived in 2 countries as a status quo and a minority. You have rights as a citizen, yes. But when you are bending or breaking the law, your chances of getting fucked with increase exponentially according to your or your group behavior, the location you're in, and the time of night. I live in city with a high crime rate. It comes in waves. If some shit went down yesterday near a given area, you should avoid it, not run to it seeking a thrill or a pic/video. I am generally pleased to see a police presence anywhere. Police are an integral part of any civilized city and have been for centuries. If you say fuck the police or defund the police, it's no different than saying fuck the buses, the hospital, the library, etc. Pro tip for if you're speeding, please just don't be reckless. I don't care if you speed, but don't weave, pass on the right, or do 15 plus what the rest of traffic is doing. If you come up on a cop, don't slam your brakes. They can tell. If you hit their radar, it shows you over the speed limit, and they see your brake lights, they can and will pull you over. They can use those two together to paint a picture of you traveling faster than what they tagged you at, which is probably true. I guess it's officer specific, but I've never cared if someone hits their brakes. That tells me at least you're paying attention. I'm not a traffic cop, and I had no pressure at all to write tickets, so I usually gave warnings. However, when I'm sitting in plain view next to a stop sign, and you blow right through it, that tells me you're not paying attention at all, which is a problem. It's entertaining sitting in the open like that. People would plan on running it and slam on their brakes when they saw me. Hey, at least you're paying attention. A couple times people would pull over expecting me to come after them. Fear. I've been pulled over and harassed for basically nothing, petty things, tail light out, etc. Basically, fuck cops, smiley face. Also, my race is ambiguous, I could pass for almost anything. I've been treated differently depending on what kind of people I'm in a car with. A bunch of tatted Asians. Cops start asking if we're in a gang, a car full of Mexicans. Uh-oh, well, prepare for the unnecessary hostility. Me and my middle-class white friends hanging out. The cops will pull you over and act like they've given you an inconvenience. Shit's a trip. Racism is alive and well for cops. Well, a friend told me a story pretty recently. He was hanging out with some of his homies between 16 to 17 YO, and one of them stole a cock bottle from a supermarket. Not really smart, I agree, but the security guy called the cops without my friend knew it. My friend and his homies were chilling on a place near the supermarket when the cops came and told them to all get against the wall. The cops were insulting them and treating them like shit. Yeah, you are my little bitch, you know what I can do to you? If I wanted, I could bring you to the police station. You're just some piece of shit, and even slapped one guy. I mean, yeah, what they did wasn't really smart, but for on bottle of cock, come on, don't act like a big man. I think about how much I despise police, how I truly believe that every single cop is a bad cop. I wonder why we still allow the police to hold so much power. They have proven dysfunctional over and over and over, and we never seem to learn. I have known about a dozen different police officers through my life. Highway patrol, metropolitan police, and sheriffs. All of these people are bitter, jaded, and express extreme distrust and even hatred for the people they are supposed to protect. Fuck the police. Seriously. I got pulled over and issued a fine for obstructed license plate because the little plastic door covering the trailer plug in my bumper had flipped open, probably from the car wash I was recently at, and was covering less than 1/3 of the final digit on the plate. Biggest steaming pile of bullshit ever. It clearly wasn't intentional, and there wasn't an angle you could look at it where it blocked enough to prevent reading the number, but the greasy little shit stain must have had a quota to reach or something, because there was no sympathy or grace. If I see a cop now, I just assume they're looking for something equally ridiculous to ding me for. I immediately think of the time I went to the police, 17 years old, blood coming out of my head. They put me in the cop car to take me to the hospital and laughed in my face and said, "This wouldn't have happened if you just respected your parents." So yeah, I don't really like cops. Parents didn't have a scratch on them. Stepmom started the fight cause I was hungry after not eating all day at school. I have many other stories about them not listening to my complaints. So when I see a cop, I just know they were the jerky guys in high school who just like feeling bigger than everyone else. Oh, I wonder what they're doing. I'm somewhat ashamed to admit that I like those police documentaries where a camera crew accompanies the police. They're somewhat popular in the UK, not sure about elsewhere. I always stare at them trying to see what's going on. Are they talking to each other? Are they using equipment in the car? Are they speaking to the public? I wonder where they're going. Are these guys the end of a late shift or the start of a night shift? I'm surprised that my staring hasn't caused me to be spoken to yet. Especially when they stop behind me at traffic lights and I'm just staring at them in my rear view mirror, being extremely fucking nosy. Literally nothing. As long as you are not doing something insanely illegal, carrying drugs, driving drunk, having illegal firearms, etc., then it should be fine. I'll check my speed just in case, but either way it doesn't matter. If I get pulled over, just turn off music, hands on wheel and roll down window. Talk to the officer when they come up to the vehicle, find out what the problem is, present license, registration, and insurance when requested, either get a ticket or don't get a ticket, and then be on your way. I think way more people get pulled over because they get nervous and start acting suspicious even though they did nothing wrong, except maybe speeding, which isn't that big of a deal. The worst part is the cost of the ticket and possible hit to your insurance. That's why I usually just drive the speed limit or try to maintain the same speed as traffic. I've even followed behind a cop that was going like 10 to 15 miles per hour over the speed limit, and it was just like following anyone else. Oh, what's he carrying? I'm a bit of a gun nut and I always like to check out what cops are carrying, just out of curiosity. Usually it's just the typical Glock or SIG, but every once in a while you can see some cool shit. I once saw a cop carrying a Staccato 2011, which I hope for his sake was department provided, but I doubt it. They are over $3,000. I saw a guy carrying a FDE SIG P320, which stuck out like a sore thumb against his black gear. I once saw one who had a 1911 style pistol, which is all cool, little bit low on the capacity side, but whatever. What got me was that the hammer was down, which meant he was either carrying on an empty chamber, or with one in the chamber with the hammer down, both of which can fuck you up, cause a criminal isn't going to wait for you to cock your fucking gun before an altercation. Leave me the fuck alone. That's what I think. Last interesting encounter with cop/S, a few weeks ago. I stop off at a tiny park that is a part of an old train station right in the middle of town at 3 a.m. The parking lot is street parking. I get online via its free Wi-Fi while in my vehicle. Half hour later 3 cop cars show up, 2 park right next to me, driver's side, and do their cop car 69. 2 other cop cars arrive and park across the street directly behind me. Those 2 get out and stand on the sidewalk. And face towards me and just shoot the bull. PTSD. Or if they are going to remember/recognize me. When I was young, my dad got busted for drug dealing and all the police, they had guns and everything, busted into our house in the middle of the night and wrecked our entire house. They dug up the floorboards and we were thrown out while they investigated. My dad was arrested that night. Probably the scariest thing I've lived through. So yeah, it would be pretty scary to think of anyone remembering me. I live in the US, so the thought is usually fucking pig. I assume that any cop that hasn't been fired yet is someone that haven't held any of their co-workers accountable for the crimes that are present in every police department. I generally think to myself, I'm going to do whatever he says, but beyond that there's nothing I can do to avoid being murdered. I'm not even their prime target demographic, but that doesn't stop me from feeling like I'm in mortal danger whenever a cop is present. My first thought when I see a cop is to avoid all interaction with them for as long as legally possible. If someone has chosen a career path that has, as a whole, employed many individuals responsible for countless rights violations, extrajudicial killings, literal theft of money/valuables from innocents, other clear violations of laws, and who often have poor, sometimes non-existent comprehension of laws and rights they're supposed to be upholding, and they often completely get away with many of the aforementioned violations, then I don't really want to take my chances being around them for very long, even if I know I'm completely innocent of any crimes. If I'm going over the limit, shit. If I'm not going over, nothing. However, if I do actually get pulled over, my mind starts racing. I got pulled over once in November 2019 and I remember thinking there was no way in hell I was getting out of there without a ticket. Cops let me go without a ticket or a warning. I was panicking inside but kept calm and managed to hide my nerves from the cops that day. Scary experience though. After years of cutting class, shoplifting as a kid, and fighting for no reason, my first instinct is to run. But I always do that hard stomp when you start to run but realize, wait, why am I about to run? I didn't do anything illegal right now. Then I walk as naturally as possible, hoping they didn't notice my almost run reaction. I have only gotten stopped once because they did notice. I was honest when he asked why I looked like I was about to run. Said something along the lines of being a reckless kid giving me a guilty conscience. He thankfully just laughed and told me to have a nice day. I was about 25, driving Dad's black Cadillac on a 2-lane road, going up to the Baseball Hall of Fame. The cop followed me for more than 30 miles, staying just behind me. Finally woke up Dad and asked what to do. He said pull over and see if the cop does as well and he would handle it. Pulled over. Cop went right on by. Caught up to the cop a while later and he followed me again for 20 miles and then eventually just gave up. After watching the media for the last few years, I feel grateful that where I live, when I see a cop I don't feel anything much. Even if I have something on me I probably shouldn't, I just think that as long as I don't do something crazy nothing will happen. And even if I did have reason to feel guilty and several cops were heading straight for me, I would feel apprehensive about the consequences of my crime, but nothing in particular towards the cops themselves. This shouldn't be a feeling reserved for middle-class people in liberal developed countries. But it is. This might be it. I hope my best friend clears my browser history. Wonder if I'll make the news. Is there an afterlife? Should I have gone to church more? What if there's not? Is this all there is? It was a good run. God, I'd kill for one more hamburger. A good one though. From that place. Wait, what would they serve at my funeral? Would anyone show up? OMG, what if no one comes? Did I even matter? Wonder how it would happen. Shot in the back or in the front? Ouch, that would probably hurt either way. All in a single second. Double check to make sure I'm not doing something wrong. You should also do that quick self-check if somebody flashes their lights or honks at you. Sure, you could just assume that everyone honking at you is an asshole and flip them off, but they might be trying to tell you that you left your phone on the roof of your car. I once followed a pickup truck for over a mile, honking the horn and waving my arms. I was on a motorcycle. I'm sure they saw me, but they must have thought I was angry that they pulled out in front of me or something. When he finally pulled over I was like, your toolbox fell out of your truck. Typically, I don't change my rate of speed when I see them, I just keep on driving. Odds are, once you see them they definitely see you, and if you hit your brakes it's obvious they'll know that you are aware of your wrongdoing and choose to pull you over because of that. So far I've gone by this mindset and have not had any issues. Being from AZ going 85 is pretty typical on the freeway. My first thought when I see a cop is don't look at them, they might recognize you. I lied about my age to a cop a while ago. They basically caught me smoking weed, and where I am the legal age is 19, I was not 19. They were distracted with something else that was going on, so they weren't too concerned about my age. I can't remember what either one of the cops looked like, so every cop in my town makes me nervous. It's 100% me overreacting, but I can't get over the fear face with tears of joy. Oh shit, they gonna make up some bullshit just to be the pricks they are, take me to jail and cost me money I need because they can. In my experience most cops are the kids in school that were picked on and think it's payback time to anyone that provoked them. While they are being docs they are doing drugs, raping women, or beating someone to appear to be a badass to his cop buddies. I know cops on steroids and slinging dope, damn hypocrites. I have met one cool cop but he was out of state from his job, is probably why.